So many of us get hung up on thinking we need the perfect plan, that everything has to be charted out with all our goals and milestones in place. Um, but life doesn't always work that way. And sometimes the winds change and sometimes the map doesn't make sense anymore. So what if you didn't need a detailed map to feel confident? What if your compass, your values, were enough to keep you oriented no matter what course corrections came along?
Welcome to the What Could Go Right podcast. We are your hosts, Erik, Orton.
And I'm Emily Orton.
And here we talk about personal growth and sailing. In 2014, we moved aboard a fixer-upper sailboat and bootstrapped a year sailing with our 5 kids, and it changed our lives forever.
We tell the whole story in our memoir, our book, 7 at Sea. On this podcast, we want to help you go from fear to freedom, one adventure at a time. So today we're talking about a compass versus a map, and I'll term that as like values versus goals. And obviously, we want both of them to work together in concert. But if all you have are your goals, then it can be really challenging and disappointing when all of the elements outside of your control don't come together in the way that you hope they will. Whereas when we're operating with values, that's when we might begin to understand what people are saying with the phrase, enjoy the journey. I'm thinking of our friend recently was sharing about this month-long RV cross-country trip that he took with his 5 kids. And he was talking about how he had a 10-column spreadsheet and he had looked up reservations for every place and he'd been to some of the places and he thought like, we have this perfect plan. So that means we're going to have a perfect trip. And it got pretty intense with 7 of them in an RV, and they did have an amazing trip. But it wasn't it if you counted it by hitting every goal and everyone feeling happy the whole time, it would be would be a different score. I think. What does it make you think of, this idea of the values versus goals?
Well, I think before we hit record, we were talking about this concept a little bit, and you said that we got an email or a message from one of our friends who said, well, what do you do when your island sinks into the sea? And for those of you that don't know, Emily and I have coached on a framework that we created that we've used for ourselves called the Navigator Framework. And step 1 is choose your own island. And
we had coached this friend as well.
Yeah. So when you choose an island and it sinks into the sea, then what do? I have had this happen so many times in my life that this is what perseverance means. And the one example that comes to my mind is actually, it's how our book 7 at Sea starts. I've been working in the Broadway industry for many years, and I had left a big successful show to launch out on my own and do a thing. I was going to produce a show that I had gotten the rights to, and I raised the money and we hired all the people. And when Emily and I keynote, I tell this story, and I won't go into all the details, but basically it blows up. It completely blows up.
Not in a good way.
Not like, oh, big success. The opposite. It's like sinking the ship kind of blow up.
Yeah.
And it zeroes us out financially. I was going to say it bankrupts us, but we never declared bankruptcy.
Yeah,
but it just zeroed us out. And I was without a job, and we had just had our 4th child. And I'm like, well, I went for my goal, and guess what I didn't do? I didn't succeed. And so, but my value was sharing good stories that matter. And I could keep doing that. This one particular show was not going to go on and have the life that I and everyone else involved had hoped, but it didn't mean that the effort was wasted. I don't think it was wasted. And the pursuit was not a bad pursuit. It just hadn't succeeded this time. And I think it's like asking every runner, like, well, you didn't win the race, so
why are you still running?
Why are you still running? I just think you just have to figure out another way to keep pursuing the thing that you value. And that might take the form of another island or another goal, to use your term. And, but the underlying impulse or calling that speaks to you doesn't have to change. So anyway, that's the one example that came to mind for me.
Yeah, I love that idea. And this concept doesn't feel new to me, but I feel like I'm at a place in my life where it's hitting me in a new way. I don't think I had realized about myself before how goal oriented, how goal focused I am. And I recognize that I've been bumping up against that frustration again and again, operating from goals, hoping for specific outcomes, which is a good and healthy thing to do, but not making that second place to values, right? Like saying the value is the first thing. And that way, if the goal needs to shift around, then I can be okay with that. Let's just take, for example, I mean, what I'm thinking about most from my early life was just motherhood. And I would have certain goals for my children, certain goals for our home, certain goals for myself. I thought I should have these outcomes, I should have these results. We should be hitting these milestones. To go back to the intro for this podcast, you think, there's going to be certain milestones by certain dates. And I realized every time that my goals or my personal agenda would so often get in the way of me actually like making a connection with the child, right? Like if my primary value was to have that connection or to be encouraging or understanding or whatever that might be, but I had these expectations and these outcomes for our kids to hit certain milestones, behave in a certain way, dress a certain way, respond a certain way, then it was all about, they're having control over their own choices and it's making it impossible for me to meet my goals. Whereas if I would say, me having an agenda is getting completely in the way of my values, of the kind of person I want to be, of the kind of mother I want to be, which is 100% within my control because it's all my behavior. And anyway, I figured out some of those lessons along the way. When our daughter Lily was born, that helped with a lot of things, with me really like pulling back expectations and showing up more with curiosity to see what was there, to see what they're interested, to see what I could offer them, to see how I could nurture them. But anyway, that's one small example. Maybe some people can relate to that. Another area might be just like health, for example. I think both of us care about our health, and we care about being outside, and we care about being physically active. And yet we go about it in very different ways, right? Wouldn't you say it? Like we have a shared value, but a lot of things we do together for sure. Yeah. But also there are a lot of things that we do. And there's people besides us who enjoy moving their bodies and being outside in ways we never even think would be fun.
I'll paint a picture here. Emily and I walk together in the mornings. We wake up, we get our shoes on, we go out, we walk out the door, we walk for 45 minutes to an hour. And we just walk and we talk. We come home and we part ways. We've had a good chat. We're warmed up, and she goes and does yoga, and she's got this fitness app that she likes to watch.
I like to lift weights.
She likes to lift weights. She's always like taking the weights from the house out to the backyard while the weather's nice, and she does weights outside. And meanwhile, I've got my crazy rock climbing stuff. I've got my hang board that I hang on, and I've got this little crack machine where I practice like hand jams that are between these two 2x6s that I've rigged up, and I do push-ups and stretches. Anyway, we're doing totally different things, but we have a similar value. Is that what you're trying to get at?
Yeah. We both value that same thing, but we within that value, we approach it in a different way. We have different goals. We're taking a different journey, but enjoying the same value. Yeah.
Sorry,
I like that.
I'm laughing because we also like to eat well and eat healthy. And Emily is
quote
always
unquote healthy. That's going to be like 500 different things.
She always looks at what I'm eating and she's like, this or that. And I'm like, yeah.
Wait, can I pause for a second there and be like, do I always do that?
Sorry.
Or
always.
Sometimes I just want to check, because if I'm always doing it, I really need to
not
correct
always,
myself.
But there have been instances in the past where you'll say, that breakfast cereal you eat is actually not that healthy. And I'm like, anyway, so
I will allow it. I will say it's high in sugar, but I
hit a nerve?
I don't.
Oh, okay, all right.
Then it's up to you. And I say, you can process more sugar than me because you have a different body than I do. But you're right. I think I will accept the calling out, because I can do better in that area, and I want to be somebody who is understanding and respectful. In which case, I can choose to behave in ways where I don't comment on your choices.
All right. Next topic.
Yeah. I mean, it's all the same topic. It's values versus goals. Yeah.
Okay.
So, we were trying to think of a time when a compass really was like our only lifeline on a sailboat. And honestly, I mean, we're using these, we're using technology. We're attached to a GPS. Satellite, and so it's never been a situation where we really had to decide between our compass or our map on a sailboat. But I think that technology does not yet exist in some of our more abstract life experiences. And so I think it still fits. It's kind of after an old model. Like, if we literally were using a paper map and a compass, we might be a little more reliant on the compass. So just bear with us. I know for sure it used to be that way in the airplanes. Erik wrote a musical about the Berlin airlift, and one of the major breakthroughs that allowed the West to triumph and Berlin to stay free was radar.
Yeah.
Which for them was like a compass. They're like, we can't see through the fog, we can't see the mountains, we can't see the landing strip, but we have this thing that's just telling us what direction we're going. Yeah.
Should I tell a little bit of the story
here?
Yeah,
happy to hand it over.
Okay. So for those of you that don't know what the Berlin airlift was, it was the Western Allies trying to get supplies through what had become communist Europe to keep what we know as West Berlin free. That's the part of Berlin that was surrounded by the Berlin Wall that came down. But this is the story about how that all happened. And so they're trying to land plane after plane after plane to just create this endless conveyor belt of supplies to keep the side of the city supplied, or alive and with the lights on and healthy and fed and all that. And with the winter coming, you would have foggy days. This is the late 40s.
Mm-hmm.
And radar is new. And so the idea of, if it was cloudy, planes just wouldn't land. You'd go somewhere else where you could see the ground and you would land. That was where technology was at the time. And now they have a way to say, you're X feet off the ground, you are on course you're completely aligned with the runway, and you can come in and land a plane no matter what the visibility. You can land a plane in zero visibility. Is it scary? Yes. You have to learn to trust this technology. And sometimes you might have zero visibility above 200 feet. And below that, you do have good visibility. But you have to get through. At that point, it's too late. You have to know before you get there. So radar made it possible to land a plane without necessarily seeing where you're going to land, but you're going in the right direction.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, thanks for bringing that home. So what might be some values?
You can listen to it for free on Spotify or Apple Music. Just putting in a little plug.
Check out Berlin, Erik Orton on Spotify or Apple Music, and you can hear all the fun music. There's one about that plane.
Called Above the Clouds.
There's one called Above the Clouds. And then there's also, was that the one? Lift off and
Oh,
landing,
yeah.
lift off, land again, bridge across the sky. So many fun songs. This was a huge part of our life.
The main reason for this episode was to plug the musical that I wrote and produced
we were
10,
not
15
even
years ago.
planning on talking about that.
Anyway.
But anyway, man of mystery, continually unfolding different gifts he's put into the world. So what are some values that act as your compass no matter where you're sailing or where you're going in life? I know one
Say that again. Sorry.
Like, what are some of your values?
Mhm.
What might be like one or two values that you have that act as a compass, whether or not, you know, it's clear where you're going, or you lose your map, or the goal, like you said, disappears or doesn't work out. And I'll say, for example, for me, two values that I can always have employed are curiosity and integrity. I have a lot more values than just those two, but those are just some examples of, I can always be asking questions. To me, curiosity has a certain amount of openness, a certain amount of humility, and saying, look, I don't know everything. That's why I'm curious. And then integrity to me means like being honest and telling the truth, treating people fairly, representing myself the way that I am.
This may or may not be what you're going for, but his story is coming to mind.
Yeah.
And that is...
I'm not going for anything.
Oh, you just...
We have just this value of
good like, conversation.
Exploring. Yeah, we're just exploring this subject. I don't have an agenda.
I liked getting good grades in high school and college, and I was pretty good at getting good grades. But I was taking this one class, music history, and the professor was just frustrating most of the students. And most of the students were getting really bad grades. We had to write these essays every few weeks, and everyone was getting like C's and D's, and we're like, what the heck? And so I could say that my goal was to get a good grade in music history.
Yeah.
My value was to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And so after getting my second or third C minus, D plus, whatever, I went to his office, and he was not having it. He's like, I have 5 minutes. Like, you know, the student before me that was there to complain left, and then I was like next in the queue, and he's like, I got 5 minutes. And I said, I can't remember his name.
That's fine. Just as well.
I said, hey, what is it that you love about music history? Because you clearly know a lot, and you have a lot of knowledge to share with us that we're not getting, but I want to know what you love about it. Because I feel like if I can come to see it in the way that you see it, I'll probably love it too, and I'll probably do better in this class. And he just changed. And, you know, his demeanor prior to that was like, how can I get rid of this kid as soon as possible? To, well, let me tell you my life story. And he literally did. He told me how he went from being a tennis coach to a music historian. And I don't remember the details, but, you know, and eventually we got around to, you know, what is it you're wanting from these essays? That, like, what do you want us to be getting out of what you're teaching us? So that, and yes, my grades on those essays improved, and I ended up getting a better grade. But what I really valued and got from this was I learned to see music history through his eyes. And not that I have to adapt his point of view, not that I have to adapt his passion or love for it, but I could see where he was coming from. And I actually learned something. And it was the learning that I valued more than the grade. Of course, I wanted to keep a scholarship, blah, blah, blah. So good grades didn't hurt. But that was just an instance where putting the value before the goal actually got me both. I got what I really wanted, which was learning. And I also got a better grade.
I love that story so much. What an excellent example of the difference between a value and a goal. Because, yeah, getting good grades, having, you know, whatever you define as a fit body or any number of things, those are goals, where the values are learning. In fact, it makes me want to change what I said about curiosity being one of my values, because I am a very curious person, but I don't just want to ingest a bunch of information to have information. I actually want to learn things that can enhance my life or help me know better, do better. One of my values is growth, which is why learning is so important to me, because I always want to be growing. Whereas mere curiosity could be just like, what's the latest gossip? I do not care. I do not care.
You could read the Inquirer if they.
I could read the Inquirer.
Does that even exist anymore?
I don't know. I'll have to go to the dentist and see if it's still out there.
If somebody knows about whether the Inquirer is still out there or not, let us know.
Inquiring minds.
We're curious.
Want to know. So that actually helps me refine my values, because I'm not just curious. I really want to be learning. So
all right,
there we go. I appreciate
you heard it here.
That.
You heard it here, folks.
This has been like a full breakthrough session for me. I hope you've had some takeaways as well. But I just think those are some really clear differences between when you have a value and when you have a goal, and how frustrating it can be, because so much of reaching a goal is outside of our control. But we are always empowered to behave within the framework of our own values that we choose. And the more in line we are with that, then the more peaceful, the more satisfied we'll feel. And I also thought it was really good to recognize like that we have some shared values, but that we have different goals. And that helps us focus more on, I didn't mean to say moron, but just like on what we have.
Were you looking at me when you said that?
I was like looking at the window frame behind this camera. Helps me focus on the things that we really do have in common, and say, it's okay. We have this same large value in common, and we are different in the goals that we're setting. And just be able to acknowledge and recognize that. Maybe you have that. Maybe you're in friendships, co-working, relationships, whatever, where you have come across somebody who is different than you. And it's really important to be able to say, hey, we are different. We see this differently, or we're doing this differently. And we may even have different values, but it's just nice to be able to acknowledge it's not because there's anything wrong with either of us. It's because we are different.
Can I venture something that I'm very tentative to do this?
Ooh.
But I think this is at the heart of the divide in our nation politically.
Oh,
I think that if we got down to our values as a population, as a nation, I think that in general, we care about the well-being of other people.
Mm-hmm.
We care about taking care of our environment,
the vulnerable.
We care about taking care of the weak and the vulnerable, or we care about safety and, people thriving economically. And our values are probably more similar than we're willing to admit.
Mm.
And yet how we go about them and how we think the best way to implement those values is where we get division.
Yeah.
And so
it's so great to just say like, hey, that doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It means we're different.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm not trying to spark a debate here, but I just think that I feel
like that was the least sparky thing you could have said.
Okay.
So I think
all right.
If you want to fight about something,
fight about it in the comments.
Make something up in the comments, because I don't think we said anything worth fighting about. Just saying, there's a lot we have in common. There's a lot that is different about us. It's great to set goals. It helps us progress, move forward, kind of motivate us towards growth. But it's more important to have values, and values are where we really have power, because that's where we decide how we're going to behave. And goals are us just taking that risk, throwing it out there, saying this thing I value, I'm going to try to pursue it through this goal, even though I don't control all the variables. And it could completely switch up. It could implode. It could blow up. But whatever happens, I can still be holding true to my values.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that.
Do we have any tips for how people can articulate or identify their values? I don't know. I'm just saying, like, if I'm listening to this and I'm like, okay, great. Thanks, Erik and Emily. I should be true to my values.
Yeah. I think that's a really good question, because it doesn't always just mean like, oh, this is a moral rubric that I live by. It could be that you value music. You know, like that's really important to you in your life. You want to make space for music in your life. I don't know if that means you're composing music, you're in a band, you go to concerts, you buy yourself an Apple
Music
membership or a
subscription.
Spotify subscription so you can make playlists and listen to music without interruptions. I don't know if it means you pay money to street performers. Like, I don't know what it means, but it could be like, this is something that's really important to me to have as part of my life. And it might be a characteristic attribute like kindness or honesty or affection or compassion or reliability. You know, there could be any number of values. So that would be up for you to consider what really matters. And sometimes you'll know when people make it hard for you to live that way. You kind of feel like, oh, this bothers me because it's actually really important for me to be seen as someone with integrity, or it's really important to me to be treated with respect, or I'm just kind of coming up with it right here. But there's so many ways to discover your values. What comes to mind for you?
Well, the thing that I thought might be helpful to share is I have a tic-tac-toe board.
Oh, yeah.
That I just haven't looked at it in probably a year or two, but I wrote it down
like
many years ago. And it's basically a tic-tac-toe board, 9 squares. And each one of them, I wrote a thing that I value. And I'm going to see if I can do this. Mm-hmm. 3 of them happen to be like where I want to live. I value living in cities. I value living in the country. I value living on the water, boats. So literally 3 of those boxes are filled with city, country, boats. That's part of it. I have one or they're kind of divided in columns, I guess, but I have learn, love, and serve are 3 of my values. And so those are 3. And then I have climb, music, and write. Those are 3 more.
It's like climb surf.
Climb, yeah, like climb surf, yeah. And so if it fits into one of those, I'm living true to my values. If I'm starting to venture outside of that, I might be drifting or getting distracted. And I have other values. I value honesty. I value integrity. I value, forthrightness and compassion and a lot of other things. But that's just a way for me to look like, hey, does that fit under love? Does that fit under climbing? Does that fit under
city,
boat, or city? And if it does, then it kind of helps me like, yeah, I'm on track. And if it's way outside of that, I'm like, maybe I should kind of take a closer look in this. Maybe I value something different than what I thought I valued, or I need to adjust so that I'm actually acting within my values.
Yeah, I think that's true. Also, what we can probably do this year, we took, I don't remember the name of the company that has this test, but it's kind of like, it's a little test that you take for free, and it sends you your results for free that kind of, based on the answers to your questions, it gives you an indication of what is it that you value most to least out of 24.
VIA Institute on Character.
Yeah, VIA Institute on Character. We can put that in the show notes for you if you want to try there. But you can also just ask yourself, what do I value? And then say, like, if this is what I value, how close am I to actually living in alignment with that value? I did that exercise recently, and I was very surprised to find out I'm living it really well in a couple of ways that I see it, but I recognize as a through line, there are a lot of places where I can get more in line with what I say I value. So that was really awesome because I want to be on target. I don't want my goals, whether they're coming together or not coming together, to determine whether or not I'm successful in life. I can be successful when I am clear about my values and living in alignment with them. So goals are great. They're destinations, but if conditions change, the map might need rewriting. But when you have your compass, your values, those will keep you steady as the terrain changes or as the story changes. So Yeah, that's basically it. Just when we are living by our values and choose to behave in ways that are in alignment with that, then we'll never get lost.
And when you never get lost,
what could go right?
Hey everyone, before we sign off today, this is Erik, Orton, and I just want to give you the sailing update. A few weeks ago, we put out our schedule for the whole year, all of 2026. And I just wanted to highlight a couple of trips that are coming up that I think are really worth remembering. We are going to be spending the winter in the British Virgin Islands, the BVI. So we're going to do a trip early January, late January, and February. And I love the BVI, and I'm going to tell you why. It is easy to get to. The sailing is world class. There's fantastic snorkeling. It's sunny at a time of year when, wherever you are in the world, January and February, chances are it's a little bit cold, a little bit gloomy. This is the perfect getaway for midwinter. So January 5th through the 10th, we're going to be in the BVI. We'll be there again January 26th through the 31st, and then again February 16th through the 21st. Another thing is these will be our lowest price trips of the year. After these trips, prices jump to our new season setting. So if you want to get the best bang for your buck, BVI January 5 through 10, 26 through 31, or February 16 through 21. If you're feeling spendy, March, we are going to French Polynesia. We're going to do a one-way sail from Raiatea to Bora Bora. Bora Bora is gorgeous. Last time we were there was, I want to say, 2017. So we don't go very often. It's almost double the cost of our other trips. If you can afford it, it's super worth it. And it's beautiful. Imagine just like the biggest expanses of turquoise water and incredible sea life and fun restaurants and beautiful scenery. So if you want to go to French Polynesia in March, we're going to be there March 8th through the 14th. If not, if that's a little bit out of your range, which I totally get, our January and February trips to the BVI are going to be your best deal for the year. So click the button or just go to the Awesome Factory the Awesome Factory sorry, let me get this right. The Awesome Factory.nyc/sailing. That'll take you to the page that explains everything. Let's hop on a call, or you can email us at hello@theawesomefactory.nyc. Would love to sail with you in Q1 of next year. There's a couple of spots left on each of the BVI trips, so would love to welcome you aboard, and whether there or Bora Bora, either way, it'd be fun to sail together. Okay, somebody's thinking about coming out. What do you say to them?
Talk to Erik. Have him get a boat with a fan inside. You're gonna get that. And outside, like a little rim thing here with moisture. They have that everywhere.
A little spritzer.
Yeah.
Design recommendations. I love it.
Yeah. So if we travel in August, some more cooling devices. But other than that, do it for sure.